food, the need to have agricultural labor, meat industry labor, fast food labor. It's a lot of the environmental destruction we're looking at is because of food and because of the genetically modified organisms. And if you look at the number one thing that's killing Latinos, it's food related. It is heart disease, anything related to what we're eating. So it's like food is like at the core of so many things. And I think that we need to be able to talk about that. And also, I mean, there's a poster I didn't show. It's called Cooking is Self-Determination. Like, we need to make it cool to cook again. Because the fast food industry made it cool to not cook. You know what I mean? Like, it's like all about get your 99-cent burger. And they make it like food is cheap, therefore eat it. And it's easy, it's cool, it's the thing to do. If you're a guy, you don't need to cook like that woman. You know, if we were to say, you know what, it's actually not cheap because it's going to cost you, and it's going to cost you in health later on. And actually, cooking is kind of hot. Like, if you can grow your own food, like, wow, that's badass, you know? So how do we do that? And actually, in the Bay Area, they're doing that a lot. I feel like gardening is, like, totally the thing to do. Farmers markets are, like, the ultimate, like, pickup spots. I'm just like, whoa, I love it, but it's only the Bay Area.
Chickens in their backyard.
It's really good to see you.
Yeah.
I think the last time I saw you in a big crowd like this, we were like taking over the fruit station with a bunch of other, late teenagers in their late teens.
Yeah.
But it's really good, and I think you had been working on a little flyer with zapatistas on it, so it's great to see that. That spirit continues to grow. And related to that, it's a question for all of us in here that are going to move on to professions or already in professions where we have to kind of toe the line, where we have to be sort of conventional mainstream, and then at the same time try to make political change and stay true to our roots, our foundations, political foundations, and our commitment to social justice. So how do you do it? Because you're out there making national policy change and affecting national movements, and at the same time you're staying true to your your foundation, your artwork as an artist, right? How do you do it? How do you balance that out?
Cool. Well, first, I think that you have to stay on the side of truth, and that means that you really have to trust and connect with the people that the issues you're organizing around. Because when you lose that connection, it's very easy to make decisions that can compromise the very same people that you're trying to work with. And so when I began to work more and more with undocumented youth, I was just like, you know what, like, I totally see what the problem is, and there's just, you can't lie about it because you feel it. And it's the same thing, you know, when queer folks come out to their parents, at some point their parent is like, you know what, I love my kid. Like, I can't lie and say I don't love my kid. I love my kid and I want my kid to be happy, and so maybe I'm not going to vote for that anti-gay or anti-gay marriage law because it's about this person. And so that's why I think first it's important to really stay connected to the issues that you're trying to depict in your work, because it's very easy to go into your office or into your expensive DC office or your expensive nonprofit and completely lose sight of that. I've seen that happen a lot. When I take artists to the border, they're like, this wall is fucked up. Like, they're saying, I am not gonna support policy because I see here, we take them to see the dead bodies of the freezers of the dead bodies in Tucson, so that you could see for yourself how people are found and how many bodies are dying because of our border policy. At that point, no matter what Obama says, they are remembering that image. And so understand that your education in whatever field you're doing has to be, you have to get in there. You have to go see it. If you care about climate change, get on that boat that goes to the Antarctic that takes people to see climate change for themselves. You know? The other thing is that I think that you have to really not be afraid of breaking some rules. And I was talking earlier to some folks in Chicano Studies, and I asked them, so what is your output? Like, what is the product that comes out of your labor? And they said, well, we all do dissertations. And I was like, how the hell are you supposed to impact young people if that's the only format you're doing? Like, why don't we begin to value in the academy short film, rapid response media, internet medium, social media, visual art? Like, you have to be able to say, look, who are we really trying to organize, and how is the pathway that I have prescribed for me going to get me there or not get me there? You know, because at that point, then, just thinking about your pathway of where you're trying to go, what kind of change are you trying to see in the world, and is what you're doing, is a dissertation going to be the only thing to get you there? I don't think so. I doubt it, actually. In fact, I think we need to incorporate cultural strategy, and I think that academics and art schools, we need to move away from this art humanities thing and understand that in today's environment, look at the most successful, look at Apple, look at like the most successful innovators are merging culture, knowledge. It's all about innovation. So I would say that, and then finally is that you have to, I think you have to be very diligent with your time and very selective about how you're going to spend your time, because I mean, I know you when I was 15 years old, and I'm almost 35 years old now, and I realize now that like time is one of my most valuable assets, and that if I could, do something, like I know that one of my goals is like I want to create scholarships, art scholarships for undocumented youth. I want to see like the next, Selena be undocumented. You know what I mean? Like that's what I want to do. So just be clear about your vision and think about how you're getting there, because you don't have all the time in the world. Time is something that runs out. And just think critically, think critically and challenge the institutions that you're in. I mean, I work in the movement groups. I'm all about challenging them. They just see artists as like, oh, we're going to get you to do a free poster, right, Favi? Or, hey, can you get your friend Zach de la Rocha to come speak for free? Or can you break me off with a donation? And I'm like, dude, stop using artists. And I have to challenge them too. So challenge your fields. Yeah.
First, I wanted to thank you so much for just sharing your process and all of that. I remember towards the beginning of your talk, you talked about like the process of needing to like decolonialize, like sort of the upbringing. And I'm curious, like what that process was like for you, and how did you use the medium of art to through that process?
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, Victor and I were involved in youth organizing. I mean, youth organizing really helped me find my voice, because I was like, oh, wow. Like, I was like, the hallway cops in my high school are always looking at me crazy. They're always like, saying I'm a gang member. They're like always looking at my brother. And when my brother's hanging out with two other people, they call that a gang. So I already knew I was angry. I already knew it's like, God, these people really hate us. But I didn't know what to do with that, and so I think political organizing became a way to have self-confidence and be like, you know what, there is a systematic thing happening here that I need to recognize. And then it just, having self-confidence then means you can kind of bring your best self forward. And I was like, hey, I'm down, I'm going to do design. I'll do the posters, I'm going to make the copies, and then what I would do different is if I could talk to all the adults that I was organizing with, I would tell them, you know what, you have to recognize there's some artists in your group, and you need to make space for them too, because it was all about organizing, and no one was saying, hey, you know what, you're a good artist, why don't you paint a mural or a banner or something? So I would do that differently, but I think, yeah, it was because of organizing and adults who were like coming into the high schools and being like, you know what, why are you treating these young people like that? Let's help you young people get the skills so you could fight back. Other questions? Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you so much for coming here. Yay.
Cool.
The first question, I actually have two questions. The first question I have is actually your experience with Insight, which is...
Oh yeah, Insight, cool.
Yeah, actually your poster of Nina, who's the founder of Rawa, was one of the first images that I saw of a Middle Eastern woman put in that kind of organizing context, and it was something that was very powerful to me coming into. So, what was your experience with that? What was your relationship with those folks who were doing those things?
Yeah, Insight is Women of Color Against Violence. And again, when Insight hit me up, I was like, cool, what are your ideas? And they were like, well, we know this woman named Mina Mina was the leader of the Revolutionary Afghanistan Women's Association, right? And she got killed by the state killed her. She was a hero, and they were like, well, this is the story of Mina. Can you help us tell the story? And you know, this is why I think the political organizing with the arts has to come together, because I had no idea who she was. And I probably would have made a poster that had like a big X over Bush or something. I wasn't gonna, you know, I didn't, and so they helped me kind of work through that idea, and then they were like, yo, you know what? There's gonna be hella anti-war stuff happening, but we need to make a woman of color against the war poster. I was like, cool, let's do that. And then they said, you know what, we gotta take it a step further and say, we resist colonization and the war. And so that helped me, you know, a lot. The process was a dual one where we would talk about ideas together, and then I would create it. I think that poster is exhibiting downstairs. Both of them are. Yeah. That was my first poster that went like viral, in the sense where it got put up all over the country. Yeah. Cool. So maybe we'll take one. Let's see.
Yeah.
We'll
talk about one or two more down here.
Yeah.
Do you have any like specific stories or moments that like really inspired you to do this kind of art?
Oh my God, I have so many. There's this young artist. His name is Julio Salgado, and he's undocumented. You guys know him, right? And you know, when I met Julio, because I mean, it's already hard for artists. Honestly, like artists, like right now, since the '80s, the NEA has gotten drastically cut. And it's not like, this is not Europe. Europe is, you know, gives a lot of money to artists. The US is like whatever, you know, it's hard to get funding for artists, especially if I haven't gone to art school. So on top of that, if you're a woman of color, you're already marginalized by the art world. The art world is dominated by white men. And look at the movie Exit from the Gift Shop. That's all I gotta say, okay? Yeah. That's very normal, and that's very acceptable. That the fact that there is only one woman in there for like 1 minute, and there are 0 people of color. Okay, so I already know that it's hard like that. So when I met Julio's undocumented, and I was like, I had a really important, you know, something important happened to me, which I was like, you know what? I don't want to just be about artists. I want to be about supporting undocumented artists, because if we have artists already have a hard time, and we have a social security number, undocumented artists are never going to get funding, because a lot of the funding that's out there comes from foundations and from state organizations, and they're always asking for your social security number. And so I was like, but you know, if there's like, you know, 2 or 3 million undocumented youth, how many of them are musicians, artists? They're going to be the next like major violinists, screenwriters. Like, we need to support that, because that is the ultimate like intersection of all the like shit gone wrong. You know what I mean? So since then, I've been working with him and like artists like Felipe Baeza, Misha Arellano. Like, they're all coming out the cuts, and it's really amazing, because I realized, you know, and they told me, they're like, you know what? No one's really organized us as artists, because even in the Dream movement, you know, the Dream movement treats Julio the way I get treated in the movement. They're like, yo, Julio, bust some things out. And he's like, well, can you give me art supplies? They're like, we ain't got no money. It's the same old thing. It's the same old thing. So I was just, now we're working together, and we're trying. You guys saw, you know, Sente, that undocumented young artist. Her documentary was nominated for an Oscar. You know, so that's what I'm really passionate about now, and that was a turning moment for me, because I was like, you know, if we really want to get these stories out, we need to like empower the undocumented artists to do that, and that's going to take on race, it's going to take on gender, especially because there's so many undocumented queer artists. It's going to take on migration. It's going to be like the bomb that dropped on the immigrant rights movement. So, yeah, that was one of the.
I have 3 announcements before we close and give her a huge round of applause. One is that she was gracious enough to let us make copies of our event poster, which is the Make Out, Not War poster. So we have 100 copies of that for people who would wish to take it home. So we thank her very much for her generosity. It's also another topic that I definitely want to talk about later on. Artists should think about their own issues of copyright and community art and what that entails. Second, she brought her own art for sale, which we're really excited about, at a very low price. It's $10 a print, as well as some earrings that she's
I made my own
earrings and postcards. And finally, we actually have a reception outside. So people kind of want to mingle and talk and stay for a little bit. And would love to start off giving her a big, very UCSB classic Chicano clap.
Oh, cool.
So off with that.
So I'll be over there if you guys want something.
I know something like that. I'm still tired.